Hello everyone, this is Oliver from Newcastle. Hello Anna and everyone at the Stafford Storytelling Club. I hope everybody is staying safe and well. This is a little story about hats. Wearing my hat as your insurance agent, he always used to begin, and he raised his long spindly arm over his head and cupped it there, a bit like a crane on a building site, or one of those grabbers in scrapyards that pick up cars. Wearing my hat as your insurance agent. And then he began at great length and in immense detail to tell my parents and us two children all the latest details of insurance law and how it affected my parents and what they would have to pay and so on, in a very, very dull monotone. Mr. Hodgson came to our house on a Saturday morning once every 6 months. A very tall man, he had trouble shuffling his knees under our kitchen table. My sister and I look forward to his visits really for two reasons. First, if we could stick it out, and it might be a long, drawn-out, very boring half hour. At the end of it all, he would change key, change his tone, his right hand would rise again, and cupped over his head he would say, in a very quiet voice we had to strain to hear, "But wearing my hat as your friend." And then, with lots of smiles and funny anecdotes, he'd continue, and that was the cue for my mother to go out and make a pot of tea and bring in the Victoria's sponge cake that she'd baked that very morning. And the other reason we liked him coming was that as he left, always to his apparent surprise, as he rummaged in his jacket pocket, he found 2 sweets, one for my sister, one for me. And they were Riley's toffee rolls, our favourites. Toffee on the outside, chocolate on the inside. Or was it the other way around? But we were also intrigued by him, because although he came and left our house bareheaded, what were these hats he kept talking about? Did grown-ups have imaginary hats, as we children had imaginary friends? Perhaps he was crazy. Perhaps he was a madman. But then we thought, our parents really like him and respect him. That can't be the case. Besides, my mother would definitely not have brought out the very best china if she'd had the slightest of doubts. But then perhaps all grown-ups were a bit crazy. The thought had crossed our minds. Indeed, we wondered, my sister and I, how many hats he had. And we imagined in his house, in his main room, a wardrobe stretching up from floor to ceiling with shelves, and on the shelves hats of every description: berets, trilbies, top hats, balaclavas, guardsmen's hats, every type of hat you could imagine in every style and colour and design. I imagined him after breakfast every morning with a servant behind him striding up and down as his servant said to him, "Is it to be the pink fedora or the crimson trilby today, sir?" "Perhaps," I said to my sister, "perhaps he's like one of those lizard things that change colour. A chameleon," she told me. "Yeah, perhaps he changes into whatever hat he wears." "Or," said my sister, who was a bit older and better read than me, "perhaps he's like Proteus. Proteus was an ancient Greek sea god, and he could change himself into anything, any type of animal, a lion, or he could be a fish, a tree, even water." We would have to find out, and there was nothing else for it but to ask him directly. The 6 months elapsed. Mr. Hodgson came again, and he shuffled his long legs under our kitchen table, put on his insurance agent's hat, and talked at length in very boring detail. Then changed key again, put on his friend of the family hat, and started to smile. And took large chunks of cake and sipped great mouthfuls of my mother's tea. You ask him, I said. No, you ask him, my sister said. Eventually, my sister's seniority won out. Mr. Hutchinson, she began, are your hats really, really real hats? Unfortunately, she had picked a moment when all three adults had taken a very large bite of what turned out to be my mother's particularly crumbly cake, and could not prevent a fusillade of crumbs spreading all over the clean kitchen table, while Mr. Hutchinson himself made strange gargling noises as he tried to contain a mouthful of tea behind his lips. Anyway, everything returned to normal pretty soon, and as he left, Mrs. Hutchinson found in his pocket this time a whole bag, a £1/4 of Riley's toffee rolls. Since that day, in my career, I too have worn many different hats, and often in the company of rather serious and humorless people, I find myself beginning to say, wearing my hat as your whatever it is, and my right hand starts to rise upwards. I stop myself just in time, but not without a broad beaming smile spreading across my mouth, which often seems very inappropriate to the people around me. Thank you.